mobile threats are no longer an IT issue, but more of a strategic risk.
For many years, we focused on device protection. Recently, however, we've seen a move towards the more what we call the human factor.
Cybercriminals so often, they don't have to break in, they just have to log in.
AI is a bigger threat because it's here today.
Hello, my name is Andrzej Kawalec. I head cybersecurity for Vodafone Business. With me today is Jim Dolce, who's the CEO of Lookout. Our topic today is how mobile threats are no longer an IT issue, but more of a strategic risk for global enterprises. Mobile threats specifically are now a board-level concern. They impact compliance, executive safety, and business continuity. Is mobile security different from traditional laptop security?
Very different security, but the best answer to that question begins with why aren't we securing mobile devices in the same way that we've been securing laptops and desktops since the advent of the personal computer in the mid-90s. And the industry behind endpoint security began in the mid-90s with Windows computers and extended into Mac computers. Over the past 20-25 years, there have been multiple generations of technologies. It's grown into over a $10 billion annual business, and it dwarfs what investment that is happening in mobile today. We're just beginning to realize and come to the realization that these devices that we have in our pockets can access the same corporate resources that we access with our laptops and our desktops. And therefore they present the same risk. And if they present the same risk, then why aren't we focusing on securing them as we have for 25 years been securing endpoints, both Windows and Mac laptops and desktops? And so we're beginning to come to that realization that because these devices access all the same resources, particularly from a business perspective, then they too deserve to be, and it's necessary to secure them in very much the same way.
So what we're seeing is that we got really good at locking the front door to the organization and to the laptop, but actually the way we use mobile phones today is to access everything, and we've accidentally or inadvertently left the window open to the attackers.
I love that analogy, yes. But I will tell you that when I talk to CISOs, corporate CISOs, large businesses, and even small business owners, they're beginning to realize that now it's time to begin securing these devices in very much the same way we have secured laptops and desktops for the last 25 years.
Jim, together Lookout and Vodafone secure thousands of organizations from mobile threats in particular. But I guess we've noticed something that's really changing, particularly for multinationals. Could you give us a little insight into what is changing around the mobile threat for large, complex, distributed organizations?
Yeah, the techniques that the bad actors are using are maturing and they're changing. The concept of a kill chain. At Lookout, we often talk about a kill chain. The kill chain begins with a credential theft. There are organizations of bad actors. You may have heard of Crypto Chameleon. That's an example of an organization who uses social engineering techniques to steal credentials that are the start or the beginning of a kill chain, which ultimately ends up in theft of data. There were two very high-profile attacks in the hospitality industry last year, both of which started with a social engineering technique that was used to steal credentials from an IT employee. Those credentials were effectively the keys to the kingdom, where the bad actors then used those keys to just simply log in with a username and password, a valid username and password, and made their way through the corporate network, found databases, encrypted the databases, and held the encryption keys for Bitcoin ransom. And so that you take that ransom situation, and you bring it all the way back to the beginnings, the start of the kill chain, which was a very simple social engineering technique used to steal the keys to the kingdom, the credentials of an IT employee.
So when we think about the start of the kill chain, right, and targeting the human layer using a mobile device, I guess that starts with visibility and understanding how security teams can respond in real time. What would be your advice in that context?
So let's look at the tools that security teams use today. Common standard tools for endpoint security is a technology called EDR, endpoint detection and response. EDR solutions are focused on non-mobile endpoints, such as laptops and desktops. And historically, they've been not incorporated or not included mobile devices. And so what you would have in an EDR solution is you have telemetry that is collected across all of these endpoints, servers, laptops, and desktops. And that telemetry is fed into a security operations center. The data is stored in a database technology called a SIM. And that gives a security operations team visibility across the enterprise of what's going on. However, they were blinded, and historically have been blinded, to half the threat surface, perhaps even more than half the threat surface, which was those mobile devices and tablets. And so now what's happening is security teams are realizing that they need visibility to the mobile threat surface, just like they have had visibility and have had visibility to the traditional server, laptop, desktop, and are bringing in mobile EDR solutions to provide that same type of telemetry into that security operations center. So now they can see a multi-channel threat. They can see where the threat begins, and they can watch the threat as it permeates through the organization, and so they can take remediation efforts to stop the threat before it causes damage.
And that's the learning, right? So typically, as you say, we've managed mobile devices, we've not secured them.
Precisely. For years, IT departments would download mobile device management to manage the device. When an employee leaves, they can wipe corporate content off of the device. They can take all of the corporate applications off the device. That's MDM or management. But they, up until recently, they've not really secured them, or better yet, brought mobile EDR solutions into play so that the telemetry from this threat surface is feeding the same backends and the same security operations team with data from mobile devices to complement and supplement the data they've been getting for years from similar solutions across desktops, laptops, and servers.
Absolutely. And the learning is you can't bring your SOC team into the fight if they can't see the attack surface.
It's like having one eye closed.
So one of the things that we've done together, I guess, is recognize that this gap exists in many organizations, that they've been managing devices but not protecting them. And if they're not protecting them, their teams are not then able to respond to threats. And that's really why we've sort of worked together to put those in place for large enterprises. Could you just give us an insight into actually how Lookout does that in a day-to-day basis?
This is where we're very excited to be working with Vodafone and going upstream into your large enterprise account base, because it is those very large enterprises, 5,000 plus employees, that actually have a dedicated security operations center and a dedicated security operations team. That team is already bringing telemetry in from laptops, desktops, servers, and as I said, has one eye open and the other eye closed. By going into these accounts together with Vodafone, we're bringing the same EDR capabilities, but we're bringing it to the mobile threat surface, and nobody else is doing that effectively. And so it's not a matter of we're going in and replacing an existing technology. We're going in and supplementing an existing technology that is providing telemetry and visibility for a certain set of devices, i.e. laptops, desktop servers, and supplementing it with the same kinds of visibility for Android, iOS type devices, which are effectively mobile devices.
So we're layering on top of your existing solutions a mobile-focused protection, and it's against the device, the applications, the identities, the passwords on that device, as well as the attack vectors through phishing, smishing, whatever that may be, and that puts actually control back in the hands of an organization.
Precisely, and the attack vectors in mobile are oftentimes very different than the attack vectors in servers. And first of all, the platforms or the operating systems are different. Windows, Mac OS, Linux, the predominant platforms in your traditional servers, desktops, laptops. And in mobile, the predominant platforms are iOS and Android. The threat vectors are very different. And so while both of these technologies are feeding telemetry into the SOC to give that full view and full visibility, the telemetry that is being generated is very different because the threats are very different.
What do we see coming next? Where's the next wave of attacks going to come?
I think we're right on the verge of the next wave of attacks, and they're coming from the emergence of AI. The bad actors have access to the same kinds of tools as we have, AI tools, as we have as security companies. And so they can generate these threats, whether they be device-related threats, different types of malware, or human threats, phishing, smishing, etc. They can generate threats faster and more effectively, more efficiently, at lower cost, with the use of AI. And so it's always a constant race between the good guys and the bad guys, and with the emergence of AI, and even going beyond that, autonomous or agentic AI, the threats become much, much more sophisticated, and therefore the defense also has to be much more sophisticated. I think the best thing about working with Vodafone is that you are serious about cybersecurity. And as a cybersecurity company where cyber is our business, it's great to work with partners who take it as serious as we do.
Thank you for joining us for this important conversation. And a special thank you to Jim, who's the CEO at Lookout, for being a valued partner in this discussion and for sharing such insightful perspectives. I hope we've reflected the shared vision of Vodafone Business and Lookout to help organizations navigate mobile security with confidence. This is just the beginning of the conversation. Please get in touch to find out more about how we can support your team and secure your international workers.